all of you. I welcome you once again in session 8 of our GST certification course. Now, before starting today's session, let me share with you that we are expecting the bill of GST to get cleared in next week certainly, but maybe by Monday evening or Tuesday, because it is going to be laid before the parliament as a money bill on Monday, and most probably it will get cleared in the next week. And once it gets cleared in next week, surety will be there that GST will be implemented from 1st July 2017. Anyways, now coming back to today's topic, as I repeatedly say that there are three important concepts under GST which we all should be aware of. Number one, the concept and the term supply. Number two, time of supply of goods and services. And number three, place of supply of goods and service. So my dear friends, as per me, the place of supply of services and goods are one of the most important topics, most important provisions so far as GST is concerned. Because unless you are able to determine the place of supply correctly, you will not be able to identify whether the transaction or supply is intrastate or interstate. And if there is a mistake in identifying or determining whether a supply is intrastate or interstate, you can fall into big trouble. Section 70 of the revised model GST law is an example of that, because it says if you are collecting any tax wrongly and paying to the central government or state government, then even if you do not have any mala fide intention, any intention to evade the payment of tax, but then also since you have collected wrong tax and paid to the government, now you will have to pay the right tax first, and then thereafter you can claim refund of the wrongly paid tax. And not only the tax to be paid, but it has to be paid along with interest. So it becomes a huge repercussion. So looking into those aspects, we will have to undergo these provisions, understand these provisions in detail. Secondly, as we all know, that GST is a destination based consumption tax. I'm repeating, it's a destination based consumption tax, and therefore we have to know the destination of the goods or services, because unless we know the destination of goods or services, we will not be able to again identify whether it is within the state or outside the state. Secondly, we all have gone through the provisions pertaining to tax invoice. We have seen the rules pertaining to invoice, and in that, if you remember sub rule 1 of rule 1, there were provisions wherein certain details were supposed to be mentioned in the invoice, and out of those details, one detail was place of supply. So the question arises, how the server is going to come to know whether the supply is interstate or intrastate. For that, with the invoice or on the invoice that you are submitting, you will have to mention the place of supply. If I am supplying my goods from the city of Surat to the city of Delhi, so for me the destination is Delhi, and therefore in my invoice the place of supply will be Delhi, and therefore the tax will travel from Gujarat to the state of Delhi as per the concept of destination based principle. Hence, it's very important for each one of us to understand the place of supply of goods and or services in a detailed. Now, if we speak about the philosophy and the relevance of this place of supply, we will come to know the following things. First and foremost, that it's a widespread global consensus that VAT or GST, we all know that GST is nothing but an extension of VAT. VAT is already there in India since 2005. So it is nothing but extension of VAT. Whatever problems were there in VAT is getting resolved under GST. So it's a global consensus that VAT or GST should be levied based on the destination principle, and therefore the revenue accrues to the jurisdiction where the consumption tax takes place. Of supplier will be the place of supply. So for the benefit of all, I am repeating once again. Section 9 pertains or discusses about the provisions pertaining to determination of place of supply of service. Section 9 subsection 1 says that the place of supply of service will be determined in the following manner, that means as per the provisions which are contained in subsection 2 to subsection 15. Subsection 2 says, if a supply has been made from a registered person to a registered person and the determination of place of supply is not possible or is not to be made as per the provisions of subsection 4 to subsection 15, in that situation subsection 2 of section 9 will be applicable. And that says, whenever a registered person is making a supply to a registered person, then in that situation the place of supply of service will be the location of service recipient. Clear? Subsection 3. Subsection 3 provides for a supply by a registered person to an unregistered person, and such supplies place of place of supply cannot be identified or determined as per subsection 4 to subsection 15. Then subsection 3 is applicable, and it says, when a supply by a registered person is made to an unregistered person whose address is there on records, then such address of the service recipient will be the place of supply of service. And in all situations where there is no address on record, the place of supplier, that is location of supplier of service, will be the place of supply of service. Is it clear now? Now moving ahead to subsection 4, which is a specific subsection and it deals with immovable property. It says that services which are directly in relation to A, immovable property, grant of rights, construction, use, accommodation, letting out, architect or surveyor, etc., which is directly related to immovable property. Any service which is directly related to immovable property, or any service which is directly relating to boat, vessel, lodging, club, etc., or ancillary services to the above, that is A and B above. In those situations, the place of supply will be location of property, that is immovable property, location of boat or vessel. Then second limb says supply of restaurant and catering service, personal grooming, fitness, beauty treatment, health service, including the cosmetic and plastic surgery. In all these services, you can see that all these services are pertaining to performance based service. These all are performance based service. Restaurant and catering, personal grooming, fitness, beauty treatment, health service, all are performance based services, and therefore even in the current law of service tax, place of provision of service, it says the performance based services are, or the place of supply is to be determined on the basis of the place where the performance is happened. It means in all these situations the location of actual performance will be the place of supply of service. So what we have done now, Subsection 4 and subsection 5 we have discussed. Subsection 4 deals with the services which are directly related to immovable property. It may be grant of rights, construction, use, accommodation, letting out, architect's work, or surveyor, or any other like legal expenses also. So all these services or services which are in direct relation to boat, vessel, maybe lodging, club, etc. And then ancillary services to the above. For all these services, the place of supply will be determined as per subsection 4 of section 9, and the place of supply will be location of that property or boat or vessel. And in services which are pertaining to restaurant and catering, personal grooming, fitness, beauty treatment, health service, including the cosmetic and plastic surgery, the place of actual performance of such services will be the place of supply of service. This was subsection 5 of section 9. Moving ahead, subsection 6 of subsection 9. Supply of service of training and performance appraisal. You are indulged in supply of services of providing training or performance appraisal. In that situation, if the recipient is registered, that is B2B supply, then location of recipient will be the place of supply. In case of B2B, it is location of recipient. But in case the recipient is not registered, then the place of actual performance. We can take an example. My company is based at Surat in Gujarat, and I have been awarded a contract from the person who is located at Delhi. And he says that you are appointed for the purpose of training, providing training to my employees and the performance appraisal of them. And for the purpose of providing those services, I am visiting to Delhi and providing the services there. Now for me, how to determine the place of supply? First is, I will have to see whether my recipient, that is the person who has given me the contract, is a registered person or not. In case he is a registered person, then his place, that is the location of the recipient of service, will be the place of supply for me. And in case he is not registered, it means I am providing service to a person who is not registered. Then in that situation, the place of actual performance, if I am sitting at Surat doing a webinar and providing training, then the place of actual performance is Surat, and therefore it will become, the place of supply will become Surat, that is Gujarat, and therefore I will bill CGST as GST. But if I am moving to Delhi, I am providing training there to an unregistered person, then in that situation it will be the place of actual performance. The example can be twisted around, and it can be said that I am based at Gujarat, I am registered at Gujarat. The person to whom I am going to provide, or the company to whom I am going to provide training, is based at Chennai. He is registered at Chennai. But we decide a location, say Delhi, for the purpose of providing training. So I am moving to Delhi. He is also coming to Delhi. So he is not registered at Delhi. So for me, the place of supply of service will be Delhi, because I am providing actual performance at Delhi. So this is how we need to see or look into the provisions. Provisions are very clear. They clearly say that in case it is B2B, then location of recipient, irrespective of the fact. If he is registered recipient, then irrespective of the fact. In my example, if we see it's a registered recipient, then 100% Chennai. But if I presume that it is not registered, then it is the place of actual performance. Wherever I am actually performing the services, that will become the place of supply of service. Moving ahead to determination of place of supply in case of export from or import in India. Section 10 is the relevant section. and it says services with respect to good required to be made physically available by recipient, and services requiring physical presence of receiver or person acting on his behalf. The location where the services are actually performed will be the place of supply of. In the next session, because next session is the backbone of GST input tax credit. Because of seamless flow of credit, GST is being introduced, because the major problem which we are facing today is, in case of interstate purchases and supplies, we are not getting the credit, and therefore it leads to cascading effect. And that is the solution which GST will be providing: a seamless flow of credit, one nation, one tax. Wherever we are supplying, from wherever we are purchasing, we will be getting the credit of everything, and therefore the cascading effect will be eliminated. With this, I believe I will conclude today's session.